Welcome to the Fear and Greed Afternoon Report for Thursday, the 18th of May, 2023. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.5% to 7,237 points. Tech stocks were the stars, while material companies also did well. Real estate and healthcare stocks were the underperformers. All 3 big miners, BHP, Fortescue Metals and Rio, rose by more than 1%, as did Santos, the oil and gas giant, and diversified miner South32. The banks were generally higher, while some of the more defensive large caps, Woolies, CSL, Toll Road Group, Transurban and Telstra, underperformed. Away from equities, the unemployment rate last month rose to 3.7% from 3.5% in March, according to figures released today from the Bureau of Statistics. That reflected a loss of 4,000 jobs during the month. It also suggests the heat is coming out of the housing market. Story number 2, software accounting group Xero's share price jumped 9% today, even though the group announced a $106 million loss. It had to write down the value of a couple of its platforms. One of those, Planday, is about time tracking, rostering and payroll. The other one, Waddle, Waddle, is all about borrowing against invoices. Anyway, they're not performing so well, had to write those down, and that hurt the bottom line. But investors liked the 28% jump in revenue and the very, very low churn rate, which is even lower than pre-COVID. If you exclude the write-downs, pre-tax earnings at Xero were up around 45%. Now, the group's cut 800 jobs this year, and today, Chief Executive Singh Cassidy flagged a review of its execution strategy in North America. Xero now has 3.74 million subscribers, of which a little more than half are in Australia and New Zealand. Today, its share price finished above $100 for the first time in a year. It closed at $102.49. Story number 3, gaming machine maker Aristocrat Leisure has announced a 27% jump in its half-year profit on the back of strength in its US business. The group, which earlier this week announced a $1.8 billion bid to buy US lottery group NeoGames, also upped its dividend for the 6 months to the end of March. But investors weren't impressed, and Aristocrat's share price closed down 3%. The weak spots were a drop in income from mobile gaming and a soft performance in Australia. But in the US, revenue was up sharply. Chief Executive Trevor Croker said the result proved that diversification of assets is working for the business amid challenging market conditions in previously strong performing categories. Story number 4, it's a big weekend for geopolitics, with leaders of some of the world's most advanced economies gathering in the Japanese city of Hiroshima from tomorrow. Plenty to talk about. The global economic outlook remains problematic. Both inflation and the cost of living pressures are hurting. Russian President Vladimir Putin continues his war in Ukraine. A post-pandemic China is expanding its economic and strategic clout. There are squabbles between allies, and who's helping Russia and who isn't remains contentious. Plenty going on. The group of 7 countries, the US, Japan, Germany, France, the UK, Italy and Canada, will also be joined by invited guests, including Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the leaders of Vietnam, India and Brazil. And story number 5, US President Joe Biden says he's confident of reaching a deal with Congress to avoid an unprecedented default on US debt. The fiscal standoff is shaking up financial markets and caused Biden to cancel his proposed visit to Australia and Papua New Guinea over the next week or so. He'll still attend the G7 Leaders Summit in Japan this weekend, though. Biden said a meeting with congressional leaders, including Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy, had been civil and respectful, and all parties understood the consequences of the failure to pay our bills. He said he was confident of a deal and America won't default. His comments were greeted positively by Wall Street, also equity markets around the world. Markets generally finished higher today. That's it for the afternoon report for Thursday, the 18th of May, 2023. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. The top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.